Hey guys, this is the Blueprint episode of Brand Booked and Delegated. Today's guest, Peter Rivera from GAEA Landscaping, has scaled their business and focused a ton on commercial, and they also do some residential landscaping, I believe, as well, but have crushed the commercial landscape design and maintenance portion of the industry. They've created a business with a clear brand. They've booked out their commercial schedule and dealt with a lot of the challenges from hurricanes, from COVID, and they've continued to build a team through all the ups and downs challenges that have been thrown their way. We're going to jump right into it. Welcome, Peter. Thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for the invitation, Bailey. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm happy to have you. I think you can inspire a lot of people. You inspired me early in my journey, you and your dad. But let's jump right into kind of the start of your story. How did you get into the trade? How did you start the business?
It all goes back to, I was in high school and basically I lived in a small neighborhood called Pine Manor here locally, in Fort Myers. And I lived in a small duplex with my father, my mom, my two siblings, and it was a humble home. Nonetheless, we basically cut out a deal with our landlord that allowed us to basically do a couple mow and blows for him within that community and some empty lots in Lehigh. And basically my dad, would take me with him. I didn't have a choice. I had to go mow these lawns with him with a push mower and a weed whacker. And I always told him hey, this is not what I want to do with my life. I would whine. I'd say, this is not for me. It's too hot. I've got rocks swinging at my face. I hate this. I've got the sand spurs all over my legs. So, a year or so, 2 years went by and I hated it, every weekend, every Friday and every Saturday. I'd have to go after school on Fridays or, Saturday mornings. I'd have to wake up, at 6 a.m, go out with him, start mowing lawns. But yeah, it was definitely something I didn't foresee myself taking on as a career path. After one day of mowing in Lehigh and seeing a guy, pull up in his trailer and hop out with a zero-turn mower, that was kind of the day where it opened my eyes and I woke up and I started seeing the business aspect of it. When I saw him in and out in 15 minutes and I was there with my dad for an hour trying to mow this lawn, I looked over at my dad and I said, hey, what if we get one of those, I could mow 4 lawns in an hour and now we're making, 4 times the amount of money. So that's kind of where it started. Started off as kind of curiosity. And my dad at first, he said, oh, you're crazy. You're just being lazy. We're fine with this push mower. But after some thought, a day or 2 days goes by and he reaches back out to me and he's like, you're right. Let's give this a shot. But if I go to Home Depot and I get this mower, you're going to be in charge of, getting us accounts. So I said, okay, that's fine. That's fine. So I was excited for that. We went to Home Depot and we got a Toro mower and we worked that mower till it couldn't breathe anymore. I worked part-time at Cheeseburger in Paradise at the time. It was a burger joint. But yeah, I worked there on Sundays and some Friday evenings. But I worked there part-time while I was doing the lawn business because I was only doing the lawn business part-time still. And I would meet people there and kind of just tell them my story and tell them hey, I also do this on the side. And, basically it went from there. So I graduated high school, Fort Myers High, just like you did. And thereafter, I went to FSW, which was Edison, I think, at the time still. I went there for 2 years, but I always carried this notebook, this black notebook where I would write ideas, for business. I couldn't stop writing out, these landscaping ideas or projections. I always envisioned, if I have 100 homes and I charge $250 a pop, I could bring in, you know how it goes. You start running all these you start getting these ideas, and eventually one day I was sitting in a math class and I'm just looking up at the ceiling and I'm having all this overwhelming anxiety and I just knew that day this was my last day in class. I grabbed my stuff.
Let's go.
I grabbed my stuff. I got up, walked up to the professor, shook his hand. I said, hey, thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I had told him before what I did on the side. And I just told him hey, today's my day. I have to go. This is what I'm going to do. And he said, I respect that. Good luck. It was nice to meet you. And that was my last day of class.
Isn't that so freeing once you are like, hey, I have this strong conviction and dream, and I've mapped out the numbers. Get me out of this freaking class. I don't know about you, because I don't operate well and just sitting in a classroom. It's like this permission to go on this huge, amazing journey and just chase after it. Isn't that so freeing when that day when you're like, all right, this is it. I'm going.
It had been bothering me for a long time because, I'd stay up every single night just researching and learning as much as I could about the industry. I started off with like, what's the population of Fort Myers? What's the population on McGregor?
Mhm.
What's the population of this? Like, I was looking at, median incomes and all that all that stuff, and I just knew that day, like, I just had this anxiety. I just felt it in my heart that I knew that I could do it. So that was my day. I left, and, a few months went by, and then one day my dad gets home from work, and he just looks at me and he says, do you not go to school anymore? Or like, what's going on? I see you a lot more often now. The American dream for them is, put your kids in school, have them be successful doctors, lawyers, and such. But it just wasn't for me, and I told him, like, hey, like, this is what I want to do. And I honestly just I don't feel like I have the time nor the patience to, stay in school for another 4-6 years and then still, have to risk it and grow my way through whatever business or industry I'm in. So I said, I'm going to start today. Obviously, as parents, they're scared, they're nervous for their kid. But I looked at them and I said, hey, listen, like, I'm going to shoot for $100,000 my first year. And, we grew up very humbly. So $100,000, it just seemed out of reach.
Right.
And my mom said, no, you're crazy. Like, I don't care about the $100,000. You need to go back to school. So, yeah, I had already made up my mind. Also, I had already been out of school for months. I couldn't go sign back up. I was probably failing the class because I wasn't showing up.
Right.
So at that point, they just knew, like, they know how stubborn and, hard-headed I am. And I just had that vision. So from that day forward, I focused, I locked in, and I grabbed my little black notebook and I started marketing myself more. I started using Facebook, I wasn't even doing ads. I was just using Facebook, my personal Facebook, posting, statuses like, hey guys, this is what I'm doing, posting pictures, videos. I was using anything that was free, I was using. And then I started also doing like door hangers, and everything just started picking up, man. And, there was one moment where I had multiple jobs every single day, residential. And that's hard. Right. I had like 6-7 jobs lined up every single day. I was booked out for like 4 months at a time. And, we'd finish one job and my dad would be like, all right, what's up? What's next? And I'm like, don't worry about what's next. Just know that something's coming already. And we'd move from that job site to another job site, to another job site, to another job site. And then, my numbers every single month, I'd write, okay, this is what I have as cash flow coming in from the maintenance. And this is what I want to hit for the month with landscape enhancements, which started off as, I want to make $5,000 this month, turned into $10,000 to $15,000 to $20,000. There came a point where I was doing $75,000 in maintenance jobs a month. And that's when I'm like, okay, like, wow, I can do this.
Yeah.
Right? So then, there came a turning point where I said, okay, this isn't enough. I need something bigger. And that's kind of when the construction industry around here started to pick up, and I started seeing, apartment complexes going up left and right. And I just figured, hey, it's worth a shot. Let me go knock on these trailers. Let me go and talk to the superintendents and see if I can get an opportunity. Well, I did that for a while, and everyone was just saying, no, sorry, no, you don't have the experience. No, you're too young. Like, no, you can't handle this. Have you ever done this? Yes, I've done this. Like, this is nothing different than what I do with residential. I can do it.
Right.
Nothing was panning out for me. And so I kind of, I was down in the dumps one day. It was pouring rain. I had to go mow my accounts by myself in the old black pickup truck that we have.
Yeah, remember that?
I'm leaving a small home after just finishing up, and I just felt like throwing in the towel. I was down. I was really down. Just out of nowhere, I get a phone call, and it's an architect, and he says, "Hey, this is so and so. Do you do landscaping projects?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And they're like, "Could you handle this? Could you handle that? Do you do this? Do you do that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that, you know." And he said, "All right, well, I've got a couple jobs that I'd like to send over to you. I'm going to send you one just to test you out and see what you do." And, you know, after I hung up that phone, I was so excited. I was like, what the heck?
Yes.
It came out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere. And, you know, and that's where faith comes into play. You know, I know me and you have had discussions about this.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a firm believer in God. And, you know, God always comes first. And,
absolutely.
You know, in that moment, I was just like, oh, God, you're funny the way you work, you know. When I felt like giving up, you know, that happened. And it was just like eye-opening. I'm like, all right, I need to like, recoup and start thinking more positively and just focus again. Like, just because it's tough doesn't mean it's the end. So, you know, that was a turning point. We did a couple jobs for him, and 2 months go by, and I get an email from him with him saying, or asking me actually, "Hey, Pete, are you able to manage a project of this scale? It's 24 acres. I didn't even look at the landscape plans. Immediately I said, "Yeah, we can handle this." Because that's what I had been waiting for, you know? I'd been asking God, like, send me something like this and I'll figure it out. Well, I finally opened the landscape plans and it was gibberish to me. I'd never seen landscape plans before. It's, you know what it's like. It's a little overwhelming in the beginning. You see a bunch of circles and lines and all these notes and you're like, oh, where do I start? But no, it was awesome, man. I wrote up a proposal, sent it over. I went to that job site every single week, bothering the president of the company, like, "Hey, have you guys made any decision yet? Hey, is there anything I can do to help? Hey, do you need help with this? I can also do this." And it was every single week for like 3 or 4 months. And eventually he stopped picking up my calls. But one day came around and it's 5 a.m. and I get a call from the GC. He said, "Hey, good morning." I'm like, "Yeah, good morning. It's 5 a.m. I'm like, "Hey, how can I help you?" And he said, "Hey, what's your address?" I'm like, "What's my address?" And then he's asking, "What's your email? What's your this? What's your that?" He's asking me all this information. And I'm like, "What's up? What's going on?" And he's like, "You got the contract."
Let's go.
And I was just like, no way. You know, that was my first 6-figure contract. It was an overwhelming feeling. It's like that movie. What's the movie called? Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes, right. Oh,
that was me.
Powerful.
That was
So
like,
powerful.
you know, he said, when he says, must have been wearing nice pants. And he says, "Well, wear them again tomorrow." That was me, right? That was just mind blowing. I was like, there's no way.
Dude,
He's like, "All right, I need you to come in." Yeah, he was like, "I need you to come into the office tomorrow. I need you to sign some paperwork and we need to get you on the schedule." And then from then on, it was to the races, man. I woke my dad up, or he was brushing his teeth or something, and I just opened my door and I said, "Yo." And he was like, "What?" And I had tears in my eyes, man. It was exciting.
Let's
It was
go.
super exciting. I was like, "Hey, Dad, I think you're gonna have to quit your job now," because he worked full time on Sanibel. And I just look at him like, "Hey, you're gonna have to quit your job." And I'm like, "Yeah, I think you're gonna have to quit your job. I'm gonna need help." He said, "Help with what?" And I'm like, "We got this contract, man." And he just could not believe it.
It's huge, dude. That's so awesome.
And that just goes to show you know, my father's commitment as well. And at the end of the day, he did believe in me. He quit his job.
Dude, that's
He went into his work and he said, "Hey, like, my son got this big project and I have to help him."
Yep. Dude.
And it was tough, man. We finally broke ground. We got in there. Obviously, I was super nervous. I didn't know where to start. I was putting in plants in one building, and then they were asking me for sod on the perimeter. So I was running around. I was doing the job myself with my dad and like a couple extra guys, you know, that we had helping us in the past. And it was overwhelming. You know, we ran into issues with cash flow. We learned that real quick. You know, payroll was just running through and burning through the money, materials, you name it. I made every mistake you can possibly make on a project on that damn project. I was miserable. I probably lost 20 pounds because we would wake up at 5 in the morning, head back out there. And there were days where we'd be there till like 9 in the evening, 10 o'clock with spotlights and just to stay on schedule for these guys. And
Right.
oh, we were miserable, but it was a very miserable, experience. Me and him were fighting on the job site, just bickering back and forth. You don't know what you're doing. What did you do? What did you get us into? Yeah, no, it was chaotic, but in the end, we got through it, man, and it was a great feeling once we took that picture at the front of the sign, and we were proud of what we did. I didn't make any money. I lost money, but it was a hell of an experience. Again, what we learned was priceless. Now, we have these types of jobs that we do, everywhere, and it's a breeze to us now. We've got our systems in place. We're not stressing. We're not running. We're just taking it day by day, making sure that everything gets done right. So, yeah, that's how we started.
So exciting.
That is how we started, man. It was not easy. But yeah, so I hope, people that are going to watch and tune in realize that, hey, you have to mess up. There's no avoiding it. And if you're afraid to mess up, if you want to go into this game thinking you're not going to fall on your knees and, hurt your elbows and whatnot, you're in the wrong business, man. You're in the wrong business.